Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Morales, and I am going to be doing a presentation today on building meaningful adult lives. So the goals of today's presentation are to determine or to explain what a meaningful day is. We're going to be discussing the purpose and clarifying community life engagement. And I'm going to be providing guidance on community life engagement as a waiver service, along with other services to help build someone's meaningful day. So we'll begin by talking about a meaningful day. So I'm going to begin by defining meaningful. So meaningful has, in the dictionary, is defined as having meaning, having a serious, important, or useful quality or purpose, and used as making our lives rich and meaningful. So for everybody, meaningful is different. What's meaningful to me is not meaningful to you, and so forth. So when we're talking about our individuals, because that is the purpose of today's presentation, is to talk about serving our individuals and what our purpose is. And so when we're talking about helping someone develop a meaningful day or build a meaningful day or a meaningful life, we're talking about meaningful for that person. And so sometimes it's hard to put yourself in someone else's place. Sometimes it's hard to, because we all have our own views and our own thoughts on things. But when we're serving our individuals, the purpose is to help them, that person, create their meaningful day. And for everybody, that is a little different. Our purpose is to help somebody feel engaged and connected to a purpose and able to connect our gifts and passions with our highest values. And I find that a lot of times that we talk about how, where our individuals lack. We don't focus so much on their skills, but we talk about, when I read charts and cases and records, it's always talking about, that they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't work, they have behaviors that, but let's start refocusing and thinking about how we, serve others, serve those in our caseloads. Let's talk about their gifts and their passions and what is purposeful. Purpose brings purpose to their lives. So you may not always agree with what somebody's passions are or what somebody is, their values. We all have our own thoughts, but we have to accept someone and serve them according to what their purposes, their needs, their wants, their gifts, their passions. So here's just a little, everybody's different, but what brings you satisfaction, what makes you feel like you've had a good day, when you've had something positive happen, you've finally achieved something, a project you've been working on for a long time, and it brings you such happiness and joy, and helps you feel connected to the community. This could be our friends, our churches, our jobs. And sometimes it's just the journey to figuring out what's important to us. We're finding fun and excitement like along the way, and that brings good meaning to us because you don't always know. We have to explore, we have to kind of dig, and we have to get out there and try new things because we don't always know that something's meaningful till maybe after you've tried it or after you've done it and accomplished it. So let's talk about person-centered planning for a meaningful day, because that is how we're going to get to somebody's meaningful day, is through person-centered planning. So for our purposes, we're going to be talking about people of working age 18 to 60, because that's what the focus is today. The person-centered planning should include a focus on exploring employment, identifying barriers, and then supports that may be needed to address those barriers or unmet needs or concerns that someone may have. The person-centered plan should include the person's interest in exploring employment, community engagement, as well as other goals, needs, and wants to having a meaningful life. You know, we've been talking about employment for our individuals for a long time. The settings rule has been going on for 8 years, and we were talking about employment first prior to the settings rule. And it's kind of, been caught up in kind of that overall conversation about the HCBS settings rule. But truly, employment is such a great thing for so many people. It allows everyone to, to not only do the fun things, go on vacation, buy a new car, buy a house, buy a new pair of shoes, go out to eat, but it also, gives you a connection to other people that have maybe similar interests, or you're in the same field. So a lot of times you have similar interests, and you make connections that way. A lot of times our jobs give us meaning and purpose, and that helps us to have a better life because we've had a connection. We have a purpose. Everyone needs to be needed, and everyone needs to feel that. And so it's figuring it out for everybody. Everybody's a little different. We all know that, but the person-centered plan is where we need to start. I've read so many person-centered plans that were not person-centered, but I would like to hope that we can start shifting and really putting an emphasis on doing person-centered planning for each person. And it's figuring it out for each person, because no two people are alike. No two plans should be alike. Plans should be very much for that person, and that's where we have to begin. We have to begin by doing good planning, not just at the support coordination level, like with, at the annual meeting, but when they're in our day and employment programs, you need to do some person-centered planning there so that you can contribute to the overall plan of care at the annual meeting and at the quarterly meetings, whatever it might be. But you need to help that person figure out their day-to-day. And that begins by those people who are providing those day-to-day services. Our jobs are to support our individuals, and that's what we need to be doing as we're providing those services. The term meaningful day is used to describe the individual's entire day, including unpaid supports and paid supports, such as day or employment supports that are in the now, the row, and the supports waiver. Of course, there's always IFS, but for this purpose, we are focusing in on day and employment services. Our IFS services should be also focusing in on that person's meaningful day. So sometimes there are things that you as a day and employment provider aren't able to provide. So they should be shifted over to the IFS. It should be translated, through an email, a text, a note, something so that's IFS work or that DSP can support that person in the community in the evenings, the nights, whenever it might be that we're not there as day and employment providers to support them. So the purpose of meaningful day services is to support our participants of working age on their path to employment, no matter where they are on that point. It could be that they hadn't even thought about employment, or it could be that they're, just beginning to think, well, maybe I could work, or maybe they are working already. It doesn't matter. Our services should include wraparound supports. That's where community life engagement comes in. And for individuals of retirement age, we need to use our services and supports to help them participate with people who are of retirement age. Someone who's of retirement age, they're no longer interested in working. They want to, they're kind of in a different stage of their life than someone who's fresh out of school, who's just starting on their journey to work and to figure out their life. So everyone should be provided services on their level, no matter where we're at, no matter what supports they require. We should help each person build a day, a week, and a life that is full of meaning and purpose for that person with individual outcomes and goals. And we should support them in the community, and we should utilize natural supports, community supports, local and state resources. All of these things should be used to combine to help someone have a meaningful day. Meaningful day services are based on the belief that all individuals with developmental disabilities can work when given the opportunity, training, and supports that build on a person's strengths and individual social networks. For so many years, individuals were looked at as they could not work, and we created quote unquote sheltered workshops to give people jobs and to give them something to do during the day. Very few individuals maybe made that choice, but it was determined that they could do certain jobs based on assessing them and things like that. So we're moving past that. It's a new day for our day in employment services, and we're trying to move out of that. When I worked in an institution back when I first started my working with people with developmental disabilities, that's what we were doing. We determined how people spent their days. We put them with groups. We based it on their abilities or their needs, or, we would put people together, based on some determination we had made. And, I served a unit at one point that everyone in there was considered, highly medical. It was more of the quote unquote ICU unit where someone, we had individuals who received, tube feedings or had to be round the clock nursing care. Our cottages were based on people, that there was a cottage with individuals who just had highly behavioral needs. So we're moving past all that. We've moved past, we should be focusing on each person. And, all my friends look different than me. No one looks just like me. We don't all require the same needs or the same supports. And so that's very much for our individuals as well. Not, we shouldn't be grouping our individuals based on what we feel they need to be grouped. Individuals should be able to make that choice of how they spend their day and who they spend it with. So our purpose is to support that. And, you're going to see that I talk a lot about employment. Employment should be first viewed as the first service choice for all people of working age. People may be on different levels of their employment journey, and we should meet them there. Some people may not even have ever been talked to about employment because someone made the determination that they didn't need to work or they couldn't work or, whatever it might be. And this includes families. Families and parents make those decisions. They've been told that their individuals will never be able to live alone or work or be part of the community, and we as the professionals have told them those things through the years, but we're trying to break that. And we're trying to move past it. We're trying to say everyone can work, and let's figure it out for each person. And it may take a while for some, for others, it may not. It may just be talking to them about employment, helping them determine what it might be. They may already even have an idea if they've, explored the community or have favorite activities already. It may be able to translate over to jobs, but it's different for everybody, and we should meet them where they're at. We're not saying that everybody has to work, but everyone should have the opportunity to have that discussion and to help explore the opportunities to work out in the community. Activities should be focused on keeping, learning, and improving skills and functioning for daily living. And so, it used to be that we would learn things inside of a day program. We would have pretend activities. We would make up activities and let people learn how to shop at the day program. We'd have, empty boxes of food, and people could give them fake money and they would practice these things. We should be doing this in a practical community setting at the grocery store, helping someone shop and make the choices. You might sit in the day program and make a list of everything we're going to make for Taco Tuesday, and then go out and actually allow the individuals to shop it and to pay for the food and things like that, teaching them about practical living to help them become independent and improve their daily skills, so that they can live alone, that they could have a little bit more independence in their homes. All meaningful services, day services, should be designed to support the facilitation of community membership and the highest level of independence as appropriate. And that just that's what I've been talking about, helping that person become as independent as they can be. Because let's face it, they're not always going to have family there watching over them or to help them. We need to help them be able to look out for themselves to a certain level. I mean, they're all going to require some level of support. That's what our jobs are. But it shouldn't always be what we've determined. It should, we should help them become a little bit more independent, a little bit better able to make those decisions on their own, and do a little bit more for themselves, helping someone learn how to use the microwave, or, open up a sandwich container. I mean, I've seen it all in day programs. They said the staff will have the individuals sit at the table, and then they bring in their lunches and they open it for them and set it out for them. And individuals are quite capable of doing all that. So we need to start working to help people have a little bit more independence. So let's talk about when building a meaningful day. For each person, think about their community employment resources you currently have that you already have connections to. Maybe there's some that you need or want to explore a little bit more to help develop more connections in the community. But you need to be creative. We got to think outside the box sometimes. And because everyone's needs, wants, and interests are going to be different. And so it's not going to be the same for every person. But when you figure it out for one person, it's going to help you figure it out for the next person and the next person and the next person. And then you're going to have some commonalities among people. You will have that. I mean, that's just going to be there. But what might be of interest to one person may not be to the next. But then, you're going to find several that have the same interest. It depends on what it is. You may have everybody that's interested in gardening. And so then that becomes like, a group activity or something. But not everybody's going to be interested in quilting or doing extra, yoga or whatever it might be, but figuring it out for each person. We need to look at everybody's personal strengths, look at your community resources, any type of technology, assistive technology, relationships that they already may have in the community, and then eligibility supports for services that they may be eligible for. So, here's some examples: work experience of each person, volunteer experience. But volunteering is a great place for people to gather great skills and help them figure out if they like something, they don't like something, help make them feel like they have purpose and that they're needed, help them have community connections. There's lots of good things that come out of volunteering. Any past work experience is also great because that's going to help that person have some skills that maybe another person doesn't have. We're gonna, figure out for each person, know about their responsibilities at home. Do they have any responsibilities at home? Do they have to feed the dogs or any of that kind of thing? What are their visions and dreams? And I think a lot of times we neglect to talk about someone's visions and dreams. And that's a big thing because that's going to give you an ultimate goal. And then you're going to have those small steps to get to that ultimate goal. I heard a story once, and the girl wanted to skydive. That was her goal. She wanted to go skydiving. That was what she wanted to do. But to get there, she had some things to overcome. One of them happened to be the weight requirement for skydiving. So, in order to get to the weight that she needed to be, she needed to exercise, change her diet. There were things in there that she needed to do. And those were steps that were helping her get to her ultimate goal of skydiving. So maybe somebody's ultimate goal is to get a job, but maybe they need to explore what's in the community. Maybe they're not sure what they want to do. Maybe, you need to have conversations with their families and maybe help them reach out to families that have allowed their individuals to get jobs. And, there's lots of steps in there that you can work on with the ultimate goal of getting a job. You know, community resources. So what's out there available in the community right now? Are they in school? Are there things that they can get from the school? Is there public transportation in your community that could help them, with their transportation to and from work, or, to and from activities they enjoy? Learning how to use public transportation is a great thing to do. Lots of community resources, churches, public safety seminars and things like that. Libraries offer great activities and events. Parks and recreation departments in every community are a little different. Lots of them offer daily activities that individuals can be a part of, and you can help them engage. Civic engagement, voting and things like that, helping them be part of campaigns, political campaigns and things like that, or helping the mayor, maybe the town council, finding ways to get engaged in their community is what we're looking for. Technology. Today we have so much technology. It is crazy. I remember when I first started in this field, there were these huge communication boards. They were huge. Y'all probably remember them. Now it's an app on a phone. And so rather than trying to carry around that huge Dynabox that they had, now they can have it on their phone, and they can help them communicate with their boss at work, with their friends and family. Learning sign language by taking classes online. I've seen and heard a couple of agencies that were doing that because they had someone in their day program that was deaf and individuals could not communicate readily. And so they were learning some signs so that they could have communication. Alarm clocks that tell people the time, or watches that tell people the time so that they, or help them take their medicine on a certain time. They have these containers now, these pill containers that it only opens when it's time to take your medicine. That only that one will open up. So much technology out there, able to use the internet for so much these days, taking online painting classes or viewing, taking tours of museums or zoos or whatever it might be out there that you might not have in your community. Community mapping, a lot of communities have websites so that you are able to know what's happening in the community these days, and this, upcoming for the holidays or whatever it might be. Using and taking advantage of your time in the day program when you're on site to explore community activities through that community mapping and through the internet. Using social media to connect to the community and teaching our individuals how to be safe with social media is a great goal for so many. Who can we reach out to in that our individuals are already connected to? Their family, aunts, uncles, grandparents. Maybe they have an uncle who's on the parish council who can then help you get connected, your agency get connected to events in the community. Church members, community members, neighbors, co-workers. Like, there's so many relationships out there that already exists for our individuals and their families. It's just connecting it and helping them utilize what's already out there for them. And then we talk about eligibility supports. There's so much eligibility out there: waiver services, LRS services, Medicaid state plan services, food stamps, Section 8 housing. All of these help our individuals. When you look at all these different things that we just talked about, help our individuals connect and have meaningful day and community connections. And so when you work with each other to establish goals, wants, and needs, and then you gather all the resources from each of those 5 areas that we just talked about, fill in the missing pieces. So you may already have connections, but you may have to fill in some meaningful pieces and parts. You've helped that person create their meaningful day. And the goals and the wants and the needs may fluctuate, but when you establish connections for a meaningful day, you've opened up endless possibilities for helping that person have their best life. I recently heard a story about a guy who was 45 before he actually had a job, and he's had his job for 10 years. And that opened up so much more for that person. And for for years, he was in sheltered employment. He was inside of a day program. But having him connected to his community through his job has just opened up so much for him. And those are the stories that we want to help, that we want to hear. We want to help our individuals have their best life, right? It's a new day for day services. So this is kind of where we're moving into some of the community life engagement and really talking about it. So we spent the first part of this talking about a meaningful day and helping somebody have a meaningful day. And part of that is going to be connecting to the community. And then we're going to talk about the waiver services that will help, fill in some of the gaps. So a new day in our day services. All right, let's talk about community life engagement. Community life engagement refers to supporting people with IDD to access and participate in their communities outside of employment as part of a meaningful day. It's also referred to many different words: community based on work, wraparound supports, holistic supports, community integration. There's lots of things that all talk about community life engagement. And it's just that, engaging in the communities, being part of the communities to help them have a meaningful day. Community life engagement activities may include volunteering, post-secondary adult or continuing ed classes. So those are offered, all over the place. They can be offered online or at your local community colleges, or at LSU, the continuing ed. They teach lots of things like, painting or art or building things. Accessing our community facilities, the gyms, the libraries, our rec centers, making those connections. When I talk about making those connections, I'm not talking about making those connections and the library puts you in a separate room. I'm talking about actively participating in your community, not just being in it, but actively participating in a class. Maybe they are teaching a nutrition class at a local rec center. Being part of that nutrition class, not them doing a separate nutrition class for you, which has happened, and it's been happening. A lot of our day programs already did a lot of things in the past prior to HCBS. They usually did them in a separate area, or, the nutrition, the LSU ag would come into their facility and do a separate nutrition class, or the library would create a specific activity for the individuals with developmental disabilities, and you would go and have your own room, or you would create gyms at your own facilities. We're talking about being in the community and engaging in those activities alongside everybody else in the community. And that is why we have to talk about doing it in smaller groups. I know a lot of times we would do these in large groups. That's what we funded, right? We funded those large 8 groups, but now we're able to fund those smaller groups in that 2 to 4 capacity. And moving forward, we'll be able to do that in a 1-to-1 capacity, but not in all waivers at this time. We also want to talk about participating in retirement or senior activities at senior centers, because those activities already exist. So it may be that you need to take 2 or 3 people to the senior center to play bingo, or to have the meal, the free meal that's offered there, and the fellowship that's offered there. And I know that I've heard from everyone, that they're not accepted, people don't want them to participate. But we have to keep trying. We can't, maybe it's not that senior center. Maybe we go at a different time or a different day, or, whatever it might be. We have to keep trying to get the community to be accepted of our individuals. They have every right to be in the community. And we talk about that in the home and community-based settings rule. They have rights just like everybody else. And it's our job to help them get what they need and to help them be actively participating in the community. And so the last one, there's just anything else people with and without disabilities do in their off work time outside their home. So we're talking about community life engagement, it's anything outside the home, right? We're talking about being, it can be just as simple as working at the community garden, or going to the nursing home and volunteering, or making cards at your day program and then handing them out at the nursing home. Don't just drop them off. Go out and hand them out. Take a small group of people and let them go hand out cards, or teaming up with your nursing home to help do some kind of event there. Maybe do your own bingo game at the nursing home, or maybe there's some church activities that are going on during the week. Maybe they feed people on Wednesdays at lunch. And so maybe you can go volunteer to help do part of that, be part of that. Or food drives, or the food bank, volunteering at the food bank. I talk a lot about volunteering because volunteering is a great way to get into the community and be part of the community. So many churches have volunteer activities and they need volunteers because during the week, a lot of people are working. So they need people outside of those who work to be able to come and help do the good things that are going on in the community. Community life engagement may also include activities that could lead to employment. So career exploration for those not yet working or between jobs, or supplement employment hours for those who are working part-time, or serve as a retirement option for older people with DD. So it's a great way, volunteering again, to figure out things the individual may be interested in doing for employment. It may be that they really enjoy animals, and y'all have volunteered at the animal shelter, and they walk the dogs and they groom the dogs and they pet the dogs and things like that. So maybe they really enjoy it. Maybe that could help them lead to a job at a vet's office or at a pet store, or have their own pet walking, pet sitting job, that they do in the evenings and the weekends, for some friends or family members or whatever it might be, or, their street, they may put it out on their street that they live on. Hey, you're going out of town, I'd love to be able to come take care of your animal. So when you're doing community life engagement activities, it's helping you, and you should be utilizing that as identifying and helping identify activities that individuals really may enjoy. And you should be working to kind of build a profile so that you can help that person determine, well, look, you really keep talking about this activity. Have we thought about it? Would you like to look at working at something like that? And so then that leads to other conversations. But that's what it's all about, connecting them to the community. So why is community life engagement important, and why do we seem to be talking about it a lot? Because recent federal guidelines has discussed it at great lengths in the home and community-based settings rule. Department of Justice has gone in and talked about, being in compliance with the ADA, and segregated settings are not, that. We're looking for community-based models of support. We're looking to be in the community. We're looking for, like I've said, community engagement, not just creating things that are just for people with DD. If you've created a great activity for DD, how can you bring in the community? How can you connect it to the community? Maybe it's something then that you offer at a community building or a community site in the community, and you team up with the library or the rec center to bring it. Maybe you have created, or you want to create, an opportunity for individuals to engage in sports. And so you need to kind of almost like a big buddy program. They had one here in Baton Rouge that my son participated in, and he played the sport alongside people with disabilities to help them, play the sport. So he was there to kind of help guide them and help them, whatever it might have been. So creating programs like that, we're looking to engage the community. And how do we do it? And the reason we're doing this is because we have some federal direction to do such. And why is community life engagement important? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about ICI. It's the Institute for Community Inclusion, and all their work is always around community. We do a survey every year that talks about community-based non-work, community-based work. It's all these different questions that they ask us, how our state's doing and things like that, because they're gathering data, and they've been publishing this data for years. And so, it is used to kind of guide federal policy and rules and regulations and things like that. They do a lot of work around work or non-work and community or facility based. That's like usually what they're looking at. And so I'm not going to sit here and read through all this for you. I just wanted to put it in there so that you will know that there's information. I'm going to actually give you, they put out guideposts, and let me get to that. Here they are. They put out 4 guideposts that really focused on community engagement, individualized supports for each person, promoting community membership and contribution, use of human and social capital to decrease dependence on paid supports, and ensure that supports are outcome-oriented and regularly monitored. And so I'm going to kind of briefly go through them, but I have the, in the resource section, I actually have the link to each of them so that you can go in there and further read it. Community life engagement support should be tailored to the interests and needs of each person, and they're different for everybody. And so that is really talking about individualizing support, really consider creative grouping, finding people who have similar interests. Staffing is huge when it comes to this, because if you have someone who has an interest in, let's just say, fishing, and you have a staff that likes to fish, and if they're able to then create a small group of people who at the day program likes to fish, and they're able to take them out fishing once or twice a week or whatever it might be that they determine they want to go, how much better is that for the staff person? So I know staffing is a problem right now, and we want to keep our staff. We want to keep them happy. We can't always pay them more money, but if they're able to do things that are of interest to them and share their talents, well, it might be just what they need to keep them around. Utilizing your staff to help come up with ideas for activities in the community, or help connect to other groups that they may be a part of. Maybe they're part of a quilting club, and maybe that quilting club, maybe there's a couple of people at your place that likes to quilt. Maybe they can be a part of the quilting club. Maybe they could do some during the day, and then maybe in the evenings, and the individual could then be part of the club in the off time, when the day program is not providing supports, but they receive supports from somebody else or natural supports or whatever. But it's a way to help connect them to other activities outside of day program and outside of the needed time that you need to support them. So Guidepost 2 talks about promoting community membership and contribution. You know, we're trying to get our individuals in the community and connected to community and finding the likeness activities that are already out there in existence and connecting them. You know, I tell people, don't look to create your own volunteer group. Go connect with the volunteer groups that already exist in your community to be part of it. Also, when you're out there, making sure your staff understands that they should not be speaking for the individual. You know, they should be there to help facilitate and let that individual speak for themselves so that they're not hindering the connection. You know, if you've got somebody, a staff who's constantly telling, you know, the person might be asking the individual something, but the staff is just answering just to kind of get through it, or because maybe the individual isn't sure what to say or they're stumbling, but to help them facilitate their words and find their words is one thing, but answering for them is a whole nother thing. And we need to work with our staff so that they understand that. Guidepost 3, use of social capital to create natural support. So as y'all know, not everybody in our waivers has 24/7 supports. Our waivers we can't fund all that. There's a lot of individuals that don't want that. They don't want that. Can you imagine having somebody over you 24/7 telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, watching everything you did? No one wants that. And so to the best that we can, we need to help our individuals be a little bit independent so that they can, you know, be alone, have some unsupported time, or be able to do things on their own. So staff may be there to support them, but not doing everything for them, helping them learn how to take care of their homes and how to take care of their needs and use the microwave, and, you know, even learning how to use the bus by themselves. So I will give you an example there. We have a gentleman that works in our office, and when he first started, his staff picked him up every day and brought him to the office and dropped him off. And then she would come back and pick him up every afternoon. Well, he learned to use the bus. And so he now uses the bus and he travels to our office on the bus. And then he travels back to his house on the bus. He now travels different places on the bus because he's learned how to use the bus system. And so that staff person, because of staff shortage, correct, is able to support somebody else in the times that she was, you know, just spending, going over, getting him, driving him, because he's quite capable of doing what he's doing. And so, but he was relying on that paid staff to do everything, you know, to come over there, wake him up, you know, get everything, I guess, out for him, fix his breakfast. And he's quite capable of doing all of that. So sometimes even when we're trying to do the best things, we sometimes teach dependence instead of being independent. And so we need to work on using the time to help people be independent and to create natural supports. He has neighbors that check on him and things like that. And so that has turned out to be a really great thing for him because he likes being a little bit more independent. You know, we're going to always require staff to support. We have so many individuals out there that need the support, but we have so many out there that don't need as much support sometimes as we try to give them. And so we're trying to figure all that out. Guidepost 4 ensures that supports are outcome oriented and regularly monitored. And so I talked about earlier about a girl who wanted to skydive, and you know, that's her final goal. That's her final outcome. And all of these things should build to come to that. We should have some kind of outcome in mind when we're working on goals. You know, it may be connecting to the community. And through that, we are, you know, volunteering and finding activities that are in the community and going to activities and finding a church family and whatever it might be that's going to help us be connected to the community. So this is something that we need to start looking at, helping people have outcomes. And when we're doing or providing services, what's the outcome of that service? What is the outcome of the service? Right. So, like I said, I'm going to, in the resource section, because I will be posting this PowerPoint and this recording so that you can refer to it and to utilize it. And in the PowerPoint, there's a section of resources. And I actually have another document that I'll probably post as well that talks about resources and kind of gives you some other places to look. But those guideposts are there and they're very helpful. They're usually just a few pages long, so they're kind of quick and to the point, but I find them very helpful. So I'm going to move in and transition over to waiver services. Rehabilitation classification. So community life engagement is now a service, and it is a service in all three adult waivers, meaning the now, the row, and the supports waiver. And the code for it across those three waivers is T2021UQ. It's a modifier. This used to only be in the supports waiver, but when we opened up the Appendix K during the pandemic, we put this service across those three waivers so that people could utilize supports in the community and not inside of a day program building. When you're using this service, it is to be used in the community in a ratio of a 1 to 2 to 4 participant to staff. So 1 staff to 2 to 4 participants in the community doing whatever it might be, volunteering, participating in a club, participating in a sports event, something along those lines. It should be, when you're in the community, you're going to be actively participating. You shouldn't just be going to sit somewhere just to say that I'm physically in the community. It's okay to do some of that if you go sit and watch a movie or you go sit and have coffee. You shouldn't be having coffee and having your own special table in the corner that they've created just for you. You should be amongst others. Sometimes staff may not even be sitting with individuals. Maybe you have 2 to 4 people, but 2 people sit here and 2 people sit there, and the staff should sit somewhere else. You don't always have to sit together and be together at the, if you have 4 people that want to go have coffee, but it's like 2 sets of friends, then they can split off and have their own conversations and do their own thing, right? So I just, when you're in the community, it should be about that person. It shouldn't be that you've decided they need to go and have coffee just to check off that you've been in the community for the week. It should be what they want to do. It may be that they just want to go to the mall and do some shopping. I met a guy the other day and I asked him, I said, so what do you like to do when y'all go out and do things? He goes, I like to go to the mall. I want to go to the mall. And I said, oh, that's awesome. I mean, he goes, I like the mall. He wanted to go there and walk around and see what was out. And then as they were leaving, the staff person and the guy were leaving, I said, so what are y'all doing today? And he goes, I don't know. The staff tells me, I don't know. Well, the guy just told you he wanted to go to the mall, that he likes the mall. Why wouldn't you just take him to the mall? And then the individual got into the back seat of the guy's vehicle. I thought that was a strange thing. Like, why wouldn't that guy, because he was an adult, they were both, they looked to be about the same age to me. Maybe the staff was a little older. They were both guys. Why wouldn't that individual sit in the front? Maybe there was a reason for it, but maybe the individual doesn't like to sit in the front seat. I have a suspicion that that's what the staff wanted him to do. That's what he makes him do. It should be more of, I don't want to say, it should look as typical as we can be. Okay. And that's why I talk about staff wearing scrubs when you go out in the community. It's not typical. It's not a typical outfit you wear in the community. It's a typical something that you wear on the job, but your job is being in the community with the individual. So it's a little different. You don't want that individual. When I see somebody in a scrub, I immediately think, well, they probably have a medical condition or something like that. That person's, medical, maybe they work at a hospital, something along those lines that's going to trigger other thoughts. And I've had conversations with individuals who tell me that they don't like it when their staff wear scrubs, because then the community looks to think, well, why is she with him? There must be something wrong, or he's sick, or something's up. And so it just identifies. And so we need to be careful about that kind of thing. When we talk about the identifying shirts, Rosemary's Angel shirt, or whatever it might say, we just need to be careful about requiring staff and individuals to wear those shirts when they're out in the community, because we don't want to do that. The whole point of community engagement is to be typical day, typical activities that are out there in the community. So anyway, I'm going to refocus back in on the service. So this is the service. I've given you the code, I've given you the ratio, and I've told you that it takes place when they're in the community. Okay. Here are the service rates that are currently being provided. $3.41 for a 15-minute increment in the now, $3.88 for a 15-minute increment in the row, $3.56 for a 15-minute increment in the supports waiver. We are working and are in process of equalizing the rates across those three waivers to be $3.88 per 15-minute increment. So they will all equal what the row once we get that completed in all of our systems. All right. So there's another component of the rehabilitation code, that T2021, and that is on-site rehabilitation is what it's called now. It used to just be called DAHAB. Now it's going to be called on-site because we have community and we have on-site. T2021 is DAHAB in a 1:8 ratio in the now, the row, and the supports waiver. And this is on-site. When the individuals are on-site, they can be doing activities of their choosing that's in the community, that's offered in the center. It may be that you have had conversations, because you should be having conversations with each of these people to help them build their meaningful day and find out what they're interested in and what they want to do when they're on site as well as in the community. You may have things such as an art center, a reading library center. You may have a game room where they play video games and watch, or a movie room where they watch movies. You may have exercise equipment, so you have an area that they can exercise, or you may have a basketball goal out back, or an area big enough to have, a volleyball net, or whatever it might be that your individuals are interested in. So that's where you have to have those conversations to find out, what do you like to do? Do you like to put puzzles together? Some people like to do quiet activities. Some people like to do active activities, going, running, walking, exercising, participating in activities like that. Some people like music, if you have the ability to have different types of musical instruments, drums and a piano and things like that, where people could take some lessons online and learn how to play. There's lots of activities that you can do on site that will then help you roll into the community. So maybe you're going to a museum and they've never been to the museum. The individuals are interested in exploring. They've never been. They're not sure what to expect. So maybe you use the time on site to take a tour, a virtual tour, to go on and look at their website, maybe just to kind of bring up, well, these are the things we might see. These are things that are there, let the individuals kind of explore on the website what's out there. And then like later that week, we're going to go to the museum or whatever. So you can use the time on site to prepare to go into the community, or you can use it as a time to be creative and create art projects that you're going to then take to the nursing home or to the local churches or whatever it might be. Or maybe you use that time, to explore other community volunteer opportunities or other community activities that are going to be happening that week or that month, and have a discussion around it. So your on-site activities should not be everybody sitting at a table with one staff in the same group, and they can't get up and move around, and they can't go places outside of that table. And everybody goes to eat at the same time, and everybody goes to the restroom at the same time, and everybody goes outside at the same time. It should be a free-flowing activity. If you have, people that are over here in one corner that are at the puzzle table putting together a puzzle, and then that person says, you know what, I'm going to go over and I'm going to paint. I want to paint. And they leave the puzzle and they go over to paint. Shouldn't be a big deal. It should be fine. If you're all there, if you've got your 1 staff to 8 ratio and you've got people free flowing around, your staff should be free flowing. They shouldn't just be sitting at a table. They should be, or at a desk. Move those desks out of there. They don't need a desk. You might have one table over in the corner that staff can go and sit down at to make notes, case notes. But each staff doesn't need their own desk. Let's open that up and have it free flowing and activities going on. If you've got somebody who's giving away a couch or you're getting a new couch, bring that couch in so that people can have a comfortable place to sit. Or if you've, got a thrift store, go shopping at the thrift store to look for puzzles or board games that people are selling or whatever it might be, activities. Maybe they have the, the cornhole games for sale there. Lots of people get rid of things after their kids move out. Art supplies, maybe, I have a ton of art supplies. I need to find somebody to donate those to, because I had, when my kids were in school, we did art projects all the time. Well, they're in college, they don't do art projects like that anymore. So, looking for talking to your staff, talking to your families, talking to your board members, looking for ways to get donations in there for things to kind of help the day program on site look a little bit and feel a little bit homier. The individuals are there to have a good day. They're not there to go to school. They're not there to work. They're not there to do. It's a different environment. It's a different thing. We're there to help them have a meaningful, good day. And so when you're on site, utilize it for that. Utilize it for exploring the community or looking for new activities or, preparing for the next activity or, like I said, if you're going to go play bingo at the nursing home, maybe you're going to allow individuals to call the numbers. And so then y'all need to maybe practice some games of bingo so that y'all, when y'all go to the nursing home to do it, he's confident enough to be able to call the numbers or whatever it might be. So it's out there. Be creative. Think outside the box. This is a great time to figure it out. I know a lot of day programs have not reached full capacity again. You have a lot of individuals that are still out because of the pandemic. Now's the time to figure it out for the group you have, and then it's easier to add in as you get people back. If you haven't opened up your day program again to all, people, because you don't have but about 8 people that want to come, do community life engagement. Pick them up at their homes, go in the community, do the activity, and then take them home. You don't have to come into the day program. You don't have to haul people to the day program and then haul people back out. Figure out how you could rework it. I had a provider tell me that during the pandemic, they continued to work. And instead of bringing everybody to, bringing them into the day program, they picked everybody up who worked, in the group, and they went to work at the, whatever the building they were working at. And then at the end of the day, they just took everybody home. They didn't have, and so when they reopened the day program building, those individuals, there was no reason for them to come in. They work. So they just continue to do that. Pick them up at home, take them, go to work, take them back home. No reason to come to the day program. So looking at practical things like that, figuring it out. Maybe you're having staffing issues. And so maybe you have 8 participants who want to come back, but you don't have but maybe 1 or 2 staff, right? So maybe you have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday group, and maybe you have a Tuesday, Thursday group. And one staff does the Monday, Wednesday, Friday with 4 people in the community, and then she does the Tuesday, Thursday with people in the community. Or maybe she does a morning group on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and an afternoon group on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 2 or 3 days a week, whatever it might be. Maybe she does some in the morning, some in the afternoon. She takes people home, picks up more people. They go out, spend a little bit more time. There's so much out there that you can look to explore and figure it out. If you have questions about any of that, or you have concerns, I'm going to ask that you contact me and we can talk through it. I've been trying to help people figure out these things. I have some providers who are still closed. I've offered suggestions just like what I just said, doing it in a small group to figure it out. Maybe y'all meet at maybe your meeting place, you pick everybody up and then you go and you sit at the library, or you sit at the coffee shop and you talk about the day. What do y'all want to do? Well, what'd you see? What are you interested in? I had one person tell me, a staff person say, well, I had individuals and they wanted to exercise, they wanted to shop, and they wanted to go out to eat. And so she said, we went to the mall. I walked, I parked far out. So we got exercise in and we walked around the mall. So that was exercising. We got to shop for those who wanted to shop. And then at the food court, everybody could eat what they wanted to eat. And everybody had a really good day. And so, you have to kind of sometimes be a little creative. And individuals in the beginning are probably going to need some more guidance than as you move along. After you've really done some exploring of the community, they're going to say, hey, do you remember that time that we went to that bowling alley? I want to go back there. Or remember that time we went and shopped over at that really cool thrift store across town at the Purple Cow? I want to go there again. Like, they'll be able to tell you, but until they've been out and explored and done some things, they're not going to know. And then there's always more to explore. Home Depot used to offer these little classes where they would teach people how to make a birdhouse or whatever. I don't know that they still do that, but I mean, that's a great way to try different things, right? Figuring out what stores have to offer, or what the community has to offer, or churches have to offer. There's lots of churches that do lots of activities during the week. You just have to figure it out. Maybe their church has something. I know that I was at a provider agency. There's an individual who wanted to go to her church for some type of prayer meeting or something. And so her and a couple friends would go to that church for prayer meeting at lunchtime and have lunch. So there's different things out there. We just have to look around and ask. All right. So we talked about community life engagement. The code for that. We've now talked about on-site rehabilitation. Now I'm going to talk about community career planning, because this is still an option in our state. It is called community career planning. This is the community part of what was the old pre-vocational service. It's for the now, the row, and the supports waiver. It's in a small group with the T2025UQ, which is the same across those 3 waivers. It's completed in the 1 to 2 to 4 ratio. And this is when the providers in the community providing some maybe job discovery, maybe there's some job prep classes at the local community college, that they offer, or at the one-stop shop. I'm not sure if they're called that anymore. Or maybe, the church is offering some type of job readiness program, or maybe you've got some mentoring going on, or you're just going out to explore the community and the businesses that are out there. And maybe you get some tours of businesses. Maybe you can get in and they'll, give you a tour and talk about what all is available in their business. This is that service where you're doing things in the community, but you're helping someone determine their career path. So it's a lot of discovery activities. It's a lot of that kind of job prep that's going on. For any of you that's familiar with PREETs, with LRS, this is kind of an extension of that. It should be similar to those types of activities and things like that. Okay. This is a time limited service of up to 1 year. If the person at the end of that year needs extension, we can do it. If the person determines at any point in time that they are ready to go find a job, they can do it. If the person determines that they don't want a job after they participate in some of this, they can leave and do something else. So there's more to come around this. I know that our manuals, they're in the process of being updated so that they can have the correct updated information. But the old way of doing things is phased out. We need to be doing things in a different mindset, and it's preparing people to go to work and not just putting them in the service if they do not want to work. Now, they may say, I'm not sure, and so they spend some time in community career planning and on-site, because there is an on-site part of this. And then they determine they don't want to do it. It's okay to leave it. Here are the service rates for T2025UQ. 388 for the now in the row, 306 for the supports waiver. Those are all going to align up moving forward to 442 for 15-minute increment, and that 1 to 2 to 4 ratio in the community. Can't be on site, it's in the community. Okay. All right. This is the on-site part of it. And for lack of a term, I've used on-site pre-voc services because I didn't want people to think that I was doing away with this service, because I'm not doing away with an on-site pre-voc service. However, it should be more of a on-site career planning service. Like when you're on site, you should be doing things that are moving you forward in your career exploration. So it may be that you're taking classes online. It may be that you're practicing some type of technique or skill. Maybe you're working on talking about or interviewing people about jobs. Maybe people in your agency that you serve who have jobs can come in and talk about their jobs. But it's done in a 1 to 8 ratio, or that 1 to 5 to 8 ratio that we have. It's in a 15-minute increment. Now, this is the weird part. In the row in the supports waiver, it's still the T2025. And the now, that's that T2019 code. This is the code that people used to do sheltered work in, but we're no longer doing sheltered work. Sheltered work on site is no longer inside of a day program building, is no longer allowed. We've had this conversation. I've had it again recently with some providers. If you are doing work, if your individuals are working and it is on the premises of your day program, it has to be done in a separate and apart building from rehabilitation services. It can't be housed together. You can't be doing it all in the same room. If you are setting up, if people are working, you should set up it should be in a business that is open to the community, where the community comes in, has access. They come in. Maybe you have a thrift store. Maybe you have a thrift store. Some people have set up what they're calling, beads and more stores. Those should all be in the community. In other words, community should be coming in. They should be buying things from you. It should not be a modified sheltered workshop. You may be in there doing the production of putting beads together in bundles, but those individuals should be working with customers. When customers come in to buy things, they should be working, not spending part of their time doing karaoke. That is a service that's done in rehabilitation, community engagement. That's over there. So if your individuals are working, they should have a work schedule, and that should be done in group employment. not in this code that I'm talking about here. This is a job readiness, pre-vocational, prepping, job readiness, career planning service. You may be doing assessments and discovery tools and things like that on site. The majority of this should be done out in the community. We should not be teaching somebody to go to work. We should be preparing them with maybe communication skills or work habits or, hygiene. Maybe if someone needs some work in that area, some of those kinds of skills. But work does not exist in this code anymore. Now, I'm going to talk about this code, the T2019, the T2025, because it's different. Moving forward, or we're moving toward making the T2019 and the now a T2025 code. And so that'll come to be later. And again, there's two codes, the on-site and the community career planning. So on-site is things that you do in the building at your day program, that is at your day program site. This service can be done in the same building as a day program. It can be done in a part of that building because you're not working. You're helping people learn skills or using maybe the computer and things like that, but it's a job prep, job discovery service. So it can be done together in the same building. And moving forward, we're going to align those codes. Let me go back. I'm going to say something about this one here. Moving forward, once I get the codes aligned, it's going to be way easier to juggle back between community career planning and on-site. And same thing with community life engagement and on-site day hab. Because once that heading code, the T2025 is the same across, then we're going to be able to just put one code, the main code, T2019, or the T2021 for day hab. We're going to be able to put that on the plan of care. And then the provider, when they go in the community, will add the modifier. And then when they come back and go into the 1:8 ratio, they'll change again. Same thing for each code. So you'll be able to flex your service by adding the modifier and depending on what you're doing, right? And so that's to come. It's similar. It will be similar to IFS flexing if y'all actually do that service. We have some work to do around it, but we're going to have it that way. Now, I'm going to talk about the individual support employment for a little bit. We have a new service array that is going to go into all of the waivers, all three waivers, the adult waivers. There's going to be a job assessment service, a job development placement service, a job support stabilization service, an extended on the job support service, and an ongoing job follow-along service. We're in the process of putting those into our waivers. It will probably be in some waivers before it's in some. Like we're going to add it into, we're in the process now of adding it into the row and the supports waiver. It will then be added to the now at another time. These services will, I've tried to align them as much as I could with how LRS mimics services. Like I try to mimic what LRS, not mimics, but what LRS services are. I'm trying to mimic that the best I can. In case you can't get the service paid through LRS, the waiver services will be there. Those last two waiver services, the extended on the job supports and the ongoing job follow-along, that's where I expect most of our services to be done in the waiver, because those will be for people who require more service follow along than what is regularly there now, the ongoing job follow along. That is also increasing from 2 times a month to 4 times a month. And the extended on the job supports will be determined based on each person. It will be individually based. Job assessments, there will be 3 assessments that are out there available. Job development, support, and extended, they're all paid on a 15-minute increment. Job assessment is an outcome service. Once you provide me the support, the assessment, then you will get paid. Same thing with ongoing job follow along. You can have up to 4 visits a month. And that's, you visit, provide any kind of necessary support. If you find that you have someone in that and they're going to need more, then you would fall back to the extended on the job supports. Or if someone comes out of job support and stabilization, they're closed out at LRS, but then they still really need on the job support on a regular basis at their job, maybe not every time, but maybe part of the time or whatever, that would be where that would be paid. We'll have more training on this because these are new services. So whatever is in your waiver, and every waiver is a little different. The supports waiver has, a little bit more, they have the assessment piece and they have the, the job development, placement, stabilization. That's kind of all one service, and the follow along is all kind of one service. And the supports waiver, you have that initial piece, and then you have the ongoing follow along. And in the row, you just have one service and everything is done in that service at this time. So what we did was we kind of took services from all 3 waivers and we made this service array, which will be put into all of the service, all of the waivers moving forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about group employment because that seems to be where a lot of people spend time. So moving forward, all group employment people who are in group employment in a ratio, sometimes it's 1 to 2, sometimes it's 1 to 3 to 4, sometimes it's 1 to 5 to 8 in the supports waiver. In the now, it's 1 to 8. The row, it's 1 to 8. None of that changed. Like, we did not do anything with the service rates or anything. The requirements are they must make a minimum wage. They must be working in a job that is integrated into the community and working alongside people without disabilities. They must be doing job tasks that are similar to those employees who do not have disabilities. They must have a quarterly documented discussion around individual employment options and availability. And anyone who becomes employed in a group employment setting after 3/17 of 2023 has the expectation of going to work in an individual job. And the service will be a time-limited service. There will be steps and requirements that the individual must go through. I'm not saying they can't, that 100% will have to go to an individual job, but group employment should not be their end all be all. Anyone prior to 3/17 of 2023 has the option of just staying where they are in group employment, but they also have the expectation, or we have the expectation, that we will discuss individual employment with them and give them the opportunities to move forward and advance. Group employment. So anybody who is working and has a job that is served by our waivers, they should be billed either in group employment or individual employment services, one of the two. Or if they don't require follow along services, then they don't require it. But if you're doing supported employment, it should be group employment or individual employment. You can't pay somebody to work in a day hab code or in that community life engagement or community career planning or on-site pre-voc. Those codes, you cannot pay somebody to work in those codes. So moving forward, group employment in the supports waiver is shifting from a daily rate to a 15-minute increment rate to allow that individual to then engage in community life or on-site day hab instead of group employment all day, because very rarely are there people who work all day in group employment. They may work 2 or 3 hours, they may work 1 hour, they may work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but they're always being billed in group employment, and you can no longer do that once we get everything settled. We're in the process of changing that. You'll be notified. I will do a training on it again. And those individuals will have to have another service, such as day on community life engagement on-site rehabilitation code, that T2021. Or if they're in group employment, they may want to do the career planning code, the T2025 or T2019, depending on the waiver right now, and to go to individual employment. And that's what I didn't say about that. Community career planning and on-site pre-voc, that is for people who want individual employment, not group employment, individual employment. So the person can be in group employment and do that. They can be in day hab and do that. And they can even be in individual employment and do that if they're looking for something else. So there have been some changes with this service, group employment, like the regulations and requirements. And so the big part is that if anybody's employed, they have to do it in this job. So if you previously did bead stuff in pre-voc, they should be doing it in group employment now, but you should have it set up that it is a community integrated job. So if you're going to have a quote unquote storefront, it should have, people should be able to come in there and shop and buy beads. It should be where it's accessible to the community, and I shouldn't have to go wandering around to try and find it at your day program site. There should be clear markings. It should have, I'm sure you should have a business license for it through the whoever it is, attorney general or whoever it is that issues those little business license or whatever. It should be, the individual should be paid, minimum wage. There should be a clear connection. We want to be able to see that they're making minimum wage, that they're getting paid. It can't just be a fake business just to get through the home and community-based settings rule. We will continue to monitor these businesses. If you have that provider-owned business, you should be running it like a business. And that's what these bead stores and thrift stores and any other business that has popped up, that's what you are, a provider-owned business, and you have to go through another level of scrutiny. Individuals have to have the option offered to work in other places. They can't just be, working just for you. They have to have the conversation that they can work in other businesses. So lots of things go around group employment, and we will have further discussions around that moving forward when I do another training on the new service definitions. But for now, just know that there are requirements. Here's the minimal requirements. Here they are. Must make minimum wage. Job has to be integrated in the community, working alongside people without disabilities. So in other words, if you can hire somebody without disabilities, that just helps further your case that you are a business and that they're getting that interaction with people without disabilities. And it's not just a business that employs people with disabilities, developmental disabilities. It has to have a separate and apart structure, from your day programs and things like that. You must have quarterly documented, I put quarterly in there twice, discussions around individual employment options. That will be done. And then the requirement, anything after 317 has the expectation of going to work. There will always be an exception, but we have to have expectations. All right. So that kind of comes to the end of my presentation. I'm giving you this option to email me at this if you have specific questions, ocdd-hcbs@la.gov. And then here's a resource list that I talked about where you can go in and view things that may help you with furthering your community involvement or employment or volunteering. Remember, when you're volunteering, there are rules and regulations around volunteering. You cannot volunteer inside your own provider-owned or provider business. You cannot volunteer at a for-profit business like a Burger King or a McDonald's. You're looking for nonprofits, food banks, churches, etc., where you can volunteer. And there are rules around that, but just the highlights: you can't volunteer at a Burger King or a McDonald's or a for-profit business. Let's see, Any other things that I wanted to highlight? If you were working, you were doing that in a group employment code or an individual employment code. You're not doing that in the on-site pre-voc or community career planning or rehabilitation, on-site rehabilitation or community life engagement. You should be spending a lot of time in the community doing community life engagement. There's no set standard of time for you to spend in the community, but it should be a choice. One other thing, we've recently had conversations with other states and with CMS, and some of their findings for when they've gone into the states to do the checks for the home and community-based setting. So realize that they will be in our state at some point in time to do checks with our settings to make sure that they are compliant. What the big thing they found was that staff was not even aware of the home and community-based settings rule, and they didn't know what it was, and they couldn't have conversations around the rights of the individuals and things like that. That is big. Staff needs to understand the home and community-based settings rule. They need to understand that individuals have rights to privacy and freedom and things like that. We cannot control every little thing that they do. They should also have the right to their personal resources, meaning they should have the right to have access to their money. So that's another big one. But I'm just going to kind of wrap up here because I'm coming to an end. But I just wanted to throw that out to make sure that you do some training with your staff. I'm going to share a PowerPoint in the near future for you to share with your staff and to help bring them up to speed on the home and community-based settings rule. I just want you to, like I said, to be able to go back and share that, but I will have that for you in the future. Oh, I had one last slide. I don't know that I'm sharing my screen anymore, but progress is impossible without change. And we've been working on this for 8 years, the home and community-based settings rule for 8 years. I have seen some good positive things come out of it, but we still have progress that we need to make. I still have a handful of sites that have not met compliance. And so we are still working with those individuals, agencies that come into compliance. It's about the individual being person-centered and being part of the community. And, that is what this is all about. The individual having choices and ability to have a say in how they spend their day and what's meaningful to them. And that is where we are, helping them to build a very meaningful life and one that has lots of variety, community, and alone time, all of it. So it's about that person. So as we move forward, just keep it in mind. It's individualized, it's person-centered, it's about the person. Spend some time with each person, helping build a profile for each person, figuring it out for each person. Thanks again for coming. I really do appreciate it. And I hope y'all have a very good day. And that is the end of our training. Thanks so much.